Hi, everybody. It's a real honor to be here today. I am a sociologist. I'm a medical sociologist, and I've been studying and been studying women's health issues for over 20 years. I always begin my classes at Rutgers by explaining that disease is never just biological. It's also social, political, and economic, and always deeply political. So this year, I think I'm just going to have the pandemic teach my class for me. The pandemic has revealed these deep structural issues in our healthcare system and profound inequities in how healthcare is allocated and how much risk we have in getting sick. But in doing so, I really hope that this has also given us an opportunity to build a more just healthcare system and build better healthcare system. So in the time that I have, what I really want to do is help provide a language and help provide a framework for understanding how gender bias operates structurally and ensures that women, and especially Black women and women of color, are systematically underserved by our healthcare system. Gender bias is endemic in medicine, has been for a long time. And this gender bias is made even worse, and it's more complex, it's more dangerous if you are, when it's mixed with other structural disadvantages. So if you're not a white woman, and racism, xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, all of those things are going to make this bias much, much, much worse. So the points that I want to address today are that women's diseases are stigmatized, that we don't know enough about diseases that disproportionately affect women, and that we don't have sufficient policies in place to support women who are disabled by these diseases. I think before I really get into these points, I just want to point out something I think important about these two diseases we're talking about, migraine and Emmy CFS. They share in common this notion that a lot of people just think that they're not that big of a deal. People think that migraine is just a bad headache. People think that Emmy CFS is just fatigue. But they're really both complex, serious, very disabling diseases. Migraine is a neurological disease. It affects the whole body. It makes you tired, it gives you cognitive dysfunction. It's not just a pain in the head. And it's also remarkably common. 40 million people have migraine, not just women, although women are 3/4 of the people who have migraine. So most of you probably either have migraine or know somebody who has migraine. And although some people just have a migraine attack now and again, there are people who have chronic migraine and who are severely disabled. Similar to migraine, people think that Emmy CFS is just fatigue, but it's really a devastating multi-system disease that causes energy depletion at a cellular level. People who have Emmy CFS are very likely to be disabled. This is not normal fatigue. So just to be clear about that. Women and women's health have long been systematically ignored in medicine. And I could talk for a long time about the ways that this has happened, but let's just stick to this one point, which is that women, when they talk about their physical distress, are very often ignored, delegitimated, and disbelieved, sometimes belittled. Now, many of you may be familiar with this phenomenon, right? You go to the doctor, you tell the doctor what's wrong, and they tell you it's all in your head. For me, it started when I was age 5, and a pediatrician diagnosed me as having type A personality. I don't know any 5-year-olds with a type A personality, and just sort of brushed it off. Research suggests that this wasn't just about me, that women are consistently face this kind of experience when they go to the doctor. Women with Emmy CFS report that they have to work hard to appear to be credible patients in the medical clinic. Women with fibromyalgia, another one of these invisible diseases, talk about how the constant delegitimization and belittling of their symptoms by doctors makes them experience doubt that they actually feel the pain that they feel. And I found this in my own research on migraine. And Black women experience multiple stigmas that compound this kind of sense of doubt that they experience. So in addition to just the bias that women feel, Black women also have to deal with the stigma that maybe they're on welfare or maybe they're a drug seeker. Black women also have to deal with this legacy from slavery that Black people somehow don't actually feel pain, even when they articulate that they're feeling pain. And then counterintuitively, Black women also have to fight this misconception that they suffer so much in real life that they can handle more suffering. So racism complicates this problem of gender bias as well. Now, not surprisingly, I'm reading reports that women experiencing long-term symptoms of COVID-19 are facing the same kind of belittling. Now, these gender stigmas are deeply ingrained in our culture. We sometimes think of these overt examples of sexist images as a part of our past. So, when you think about sometimes gender bias, you think about these old 1960s advertisements, like this one about this woman who has a housewife headache from doing her chores. You can see that, she's ironing, she's doing her dishes, she's doing her laundry. No wonder she has a headache, but she takes a pill and there she can go on a date with her very handsome, adoring husband. But these gendered stigmas are really not part of the past at all. They're very much a part of our contemporary culture. So here's just another advertisement, a more contemporary advertisement. And here you can see a nurse, at least she's now at work. She's not just stuck at home, but when she has a headache, she has the classic headache pose, which is, she's squinting her eyes and she's looking. I always think when women look like this, what they're doing is wondering where their keys are. And she's in a dark room and her back is turned towards all those babies. She can't care for the babies. But after she has a pill, look, the room is warm and lovely, and she can do that thing that women do so best, which is care for a baby. So this kind of gender bias persists. Now, this kind of gender bias, if I had time, I would show you how this bias exists in medical textbooks, in medical interactions all of the time. But I'm sure you'll be hearing more about this from the other panelists. Now, the reason I want to talk about these stigmas is because they matter. They matter because they're deeply embedded in our institutions, from NIH and medical hospitals where education happens, to places of employment, where women with chronic illness often find their ability to work curtailed by stigma and discrimination, and even at home, and maybe even especially at home. And addressing sexism like this matters because not only do they limit what we think of as normal, but they limit what we can imagine as possible for women and for our daughters. Now, we don't know enough about women's diseases. That's my second point. And in order to talk about this, women from its ranks in the mid-19th century, prior to Congress's approval of Title IX in the 1970s, fewer than 10% of medical students were women. And now, more than half of matriculating students in medical school are women. So we've made progress. The Office of Research on Women's Health was only set up in 1990, and the 1993 NIH Revitalization Act has done a lot to improve the inclusion of women and minorities in research. But this isn't enough, right? Because we still know that we don't know enough about diseases. What I want to tell you is that if you look at how NIH allocates funding as measured by disability adjusted life years or DALYs, what you would see is that migraine and Emmy CFS are not allocated sufficient funding relative to the amount of burden that they cause. So that they should be allocated something upwards of perhaps $100 to $200 million per year. Research is for migraine. Every year, migraine gets about $20 million in research, and Emmy CFS receives about $5 million. And I'm sure you'll see more of this from subsequent panelists.